With us today is TJ Ciolfi, and he was in the last segment, of course, with Melissa Delana. We're talking about estate sales. Now, TJ, I know you're a seasoned pro with these things. You've done tons of them. You've assisted a lot of families through this, tough time. And, what kind of insights can you share with our listeners?
I did. I was interested in finding a niche when I got into real estate. And the probate niche, because there's 75 million baby boomers, right?
Yeah,
so these
huge.
are properties that are paid off in a lot of situations. And people need to sell them. So, I was always taught you help more people. Better for your business, right? So
of course.
Some of the things I've noticed is most people will do their last major house renovation in their 50s. So a lot of the estate sales or the houses that are being passed down, and they might be outdated.
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
Yes.
They're going to be filled with a lifetime full of stuff. Pictures, books, furniture. I mean, we're talking about people that live in their house 40 years. It's paid off. The house may be outdated. It's full of things.
Yeah.
So the conversation that we have to have often with an executor is, do you want to sell it as it is now in a hurry, or do you want to upgrade it in some way? Definitely empty it out, but do you want to upgrade it to try and maximize the dollars that you can get for the property?
Or there's also the cash investor that come in, like you said, as is, I guess.
And that's one of the things I want people to be aware of. If you Google probate real estate, the first 3 pages, it's all about investors. And I'm not a real estate investor.
No.
I'm trying to maximize dollars for sellers.
Yep.
That's what I do for a living. When their phone rings, a lot of the time it's an investor who's trying to say, as quick as you want it, I can take it off your hands at 60% of what it's probably worth.
Oh, yeah.
So what I try and do is encourage people, let me come in, let me show you how much money you'll really get. Let me give you a detailed sheet of how much money's in the property. And let me let you know what the fair market value is now and what the fair market value is going to be if we upgrade it or make some minor repairs.
Yeah, that's a good
The
point.
investor is going to come in and he's just going to throw a lowball number and see what can happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 60% sometimes of what the fair market value is then. Even if they're picking it up at 80% of what your fair market is now, right, for a quick sale, in this market, we can probably put your house on the market and get you close to 100% of fair market value as it sits. Right.
And we're doing that so consistently. I'm very confident when I tell people in that role of executor or administrator, which Melissa explained in great detail, the difference between those two, boy. But I think it's in everyone's best interest to at least have that baseline. What's the fair market value? Is it worth waiting, or do you just want to push it to an investor?
Yeah, and if you're going to go that route, you might as well contact us anyways. We'll facilitate the whole transaction. So if an investor is contacting you and you feel like you want to go to work with an investor, if they tell you no realtors, the reason why they're telling you no realtors is because obviously they want to get as much, equity out of the house as possible, okay? When you put a real estate agent in there, it's not going to cost you anything because our services are more than going to pay for themselves. We're going to get you a higher price on that, okay? And we could probably still sell it to that cash investor quick, okay?
Definitely. And not only that, I find that maybe 40% of the people who are in charge of estates are out of state. So when an investor calls them from the 401 area code, a Rhode Island investor, they're really going in blind because they have no idea what the real estate market is in this state.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so regional. It's neighborhood by neighborhood, right? So our team has specialists in every part of the state. So even if it's an area or in a state where I don't do a lot of business, we have someone on our team that knows that area well.
Yeah.
And we can get you, 100% of what it's worth now, or at least give you something to stand on when you're talking to an investor, so you're not getting lowballed. The other thing I've done, and I think it's important, is I built a network of people that can help estates in removing things from the house, auctioning things off from the house, moving furniture out of the house, and not to mention our normal list of painters and roofers and all the contractors that we work with all the time. But a lot of times there's so much stuff in the house. People are out of town. People are busy. Who wants to move out of a 3,000 square foot house? What do you do with all the things? So I tried to build a network of people that can help sellers, in all those little things that are going to come up when you're selling a property that's not your own property.
It's huge. Where do you start? It's so overwhelming. The real estate process as it is is so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. And that is one of the key benefits of having a professional guide you through the process, take care of 95% of the process for you. Now, when you're talking about estate sales, you have a much more ambiguous, animal here. It's a bigger, it's a beast, and especially if the estate was not prepared correctly, we're talking legal teams, we're talking, real estate teams, we're talking, you got to work with the bank, you got to work with, there's so much involved, never mind the furniture.
And the family. And that's the number one thing that comes in is,
and the family,
the family is going to disperse, to you, it might be a bench, that's in the shed, but to your nephew, it might be the most important heirloom in the whole family, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just go into the house and bulldoze it, right? You have to go in and say, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. In a lot of cases, those are difficult conversations. But then you will get to a point where it's, okay, what do I do with all this stuff?
Yeah.
And that's why we have a team that helps that.
It's got to be treated with kid gloves. I mean, we understand that it's a pretty emotional time for most families. And, and estate sales, too, by the way, maybe people don't know this, are folks that are still living that are in nursing homes.
A lot
maybe
of
you have to sell the house for assisted living. So we couldn't cover all of the details here, obviously. In every situation, TJ, as I'm sure you'll attest to, has its own nuances. It has its, like I said, it's very ambiguous. There's so much to the process. You really want to make sure that you're guided professionally, because maybe it's not even right to sell. Maybe you want to rent. Maybe, there's just so much to it. Maybe right now is not the time, or maybe it is the time, but you've got to sit down, and the situation needs to be tailored towards your situation. We've got to make sure that everything is happening in your benefit. There's a lot to that. Okay, we can't mention all that on the show.
No, it's a whole class in law school, as Melissa will tell you. I mean, there really is a lot to it, but what we try and do is take every person and counsel them as best we can.